We were at the airport terminal. She told me not to walk next to her because I would make her look bad in front of her girlfriends. I just nodded my head and let her go on ahead without me. However, when she returned a few weeks later, I was not the one picking her up. My girlfriend Jessica and I live in two completely different worlds. My world is something you can touch. It is real. Her world is filtered, and it only exists for an audience on a phone screen. For the first year and a half, I thought this difference was charming. However, 6 months ago, she quit a steady job in marketing to become a full-time social media influencer. We made an agreement. I would pay the major bills for a trial period of 6 months. This was to give her a runway to build up her brand. She was supposed to use her own savings for her business costs. It was a calculated risk for the short term. I was investing in her potential. I was not signing a blank check for the rest of her life. Right away, her business expenses started to look a lot more like shopping sprees. My patience was wearing thin. The whole setup felt less like a partnership and more like I was the silent producer of her one-woman show. The cracks in our relationship were starting to show. She made little comments about how my life was not very aspirational. She started talking to me like I was her assistant. This 3-week trip to Europe for content creation was supposed to be her final big push before the 6 months were up. After that, she had to start contributing financially again. The incident at the airport was not the first red flag I saw, but it was absolutely the final one. I drove her to the airport and helped her with her 3 huge, heavy suitcases. As we got close to the check-in counter, she spotted her friends, Brittany and Chloe. They were dressed up like they were about to walk down a fashion runway, not sit on a 10-hour flight. They looked over at me in my comfortable blue jeans and hooded sweatshirt. I saw them exchange a look of slight disgust. Jessica stopped right in her tracks. She turned to me. It was not a loving goodbye. It was a look of pure panic. "Okay, you can stop right here," she said. Her voice was a harsh whisper. I was confused. "What do you mean?" "I will walk you to security." She let out a loud, annoyed sigh, as if I had just suggested we churn our own butter right there in the middle of the terminal. She glanced over at her friends, who were pretending not to watch us. Then she looked back at me. "Do not walk with me," she said, her voice low and sharp. "You will embarrass me in front of my friends." And there it was. That was the final confirmation. I was not a person to be loved and missed. I was a potential embarrassment that needed to be managed. I was a stain on her carefully crafted image. I looked past her and saw Brittany and Chloe smirking. They had heard what she said. In that moment, our entire relationship replayed in my head, but this time it had perfect clarity. I remembered every dismissive comment. I remembered every time I felt like an accessory instead of a partner. It all clicked into place. The love I felt for her did not just die. It evaporated. I did not get angry. I did not raise my voice. A strange, almost joyful calm settled over me. I looked at her perfectly made-up face, and I just nodded my head. "You are right," I said. My voice was even and polite. I would not want to do that. I let go of her luggage cart. "Have a great trip," I said. Then I turned around and walked away without looking back. She stood there, stunned into silence. She was expecting a fight. She wanted an argument or some drama she could tell her friends about later. She did not get it. All she got was a view of my back walking away, getting smaller and smaller. As I walked out of the airport, I pulled out my cellular phone. She was going to be gone for 3 weeks. That was more than enough time. She was about to get the rebranding of a lifetime. And her ride home was definitely not going to be me. Update number 1. That drive back from the airport turned out to be the most productive 60 minutes I have ever spent. A small part of me wanted to be childish. I wanted to drive home and toss all of her belongings right onto the front grass. However, the part of me that likes order and rules knew better. This situation needed to be handled with precision. This was not about smashing things up. It was a careful and deliberate disassembly. My very first stop was the car dealership. The luxury vehicle she drove was registered entirely in my name. It was a beautiful car, and she loved being seen driving it. I walked inside, found the sales manager I had dealt with before, and told him I wanted to sell it back to them. He was a little bit surprised, but he knew a good deal when he saw one. By the end of the afternoon, the papers were signed. The car belonged to them, and I had a very large check in my pocket. Step 1 was finished. When I finally got to the house, it felt weird. It was filled with her toys. Her clothes were in the closet. Her beauty products were scattered all over the bathroom. Her filming studio had taken over the entire spare bedroom. It was a monument to a person who did not exist in my life anymore. It was time for a renovation. I did not want to just pack her things into boxes. I wanted to erase her completely. I called up a high-end hauling and deep cleaning service. I explained the situation to the owner. I told them I wanted every single item that was not mine removed from the house. I wanted the closets emptied, the bathroom cleared out, and the spare bedroom completely gutted. I also asked for a deep cleaning of the entire house from top to bottom. I wanted the place to feel brand new again. They gave me a price, and I told them I would pay double if they could have it all finished by the end of the next day. While they worked their magic, I focused on the digital side of our lives. I logged into our shared streaming accounts and changed every single password. I went through my bank accounts and credit cards, removing her name as an authorized user on everything. I also found the login information for the website she used for her influencer business. I did not delete it. That would be too easy. Instead, I went into the settings and changed the contact email address and the recovery phone number to my own. I was now the silent and sole boss of her brand. By the next evening, the house was transformed. It was empty, clean, and quiet. The hauling service had been ruthless and efficient. Every trace of her was gone. The spare bedroom, which used to be a messy pile of ring lights and cheap fashion, was now just an empty room full of potential. However, an empty house is not a home. So, I went shopping. I bought a new, comfortable couch that a man could actually fall asleep on. I brought out the solid oak coffee table I had built myself a few years ago. I had kept it in storage because it did not fit her style. I bought a new television. I got a bigger one and a proper sound system. I turned the spare bedroom into a home gymnasium and a workshop for my smaller design projects. My life is built on making real, solid things, and I was finally reclaiming my space to do exactly that. Over the next 2 weeks, I systematically rebuilt my life. I called up friends I had not seen in months because Jessica thought they were boring. I went hiking. I went to baseball games. I did all the things I had stopped doing because they did not look good on social media. I received a couple of text messages from her while she was away. They were short and light. She sent me pictures of herself standing in front of the Eiffel Tower or eating a bowl of pasta in Rome. She never once asked how I was doing. She just sent updates about her own fancy life. I never replied to a single one. The last part of my plan came together a few days before she was supposed to come back. I took that check from the car dealership and used some of the money to book a trip for myself. It was a 2-week motorcycle tour through the national parks out west. It was a trip I always wanted to take, but I kept putting it off because Jessica hated camping. My flight was scheduled to leave on the exact same day she was scheduled to land. On the day before her flight home, I sent her one single email. The subject line read, "Important information regarding your return." The email was short and direct. "Jessica, As per your request at the airport, I have ceased to be a part of your life. To that end, I have made the following arrangements. Number 1. Your belongings have been professionally packed up and moved to a secure storage facility. The address is 123 Storage Way, Unit 42. The access code is 1234. The first month is paid for. Number 2. The car you were driving has been sold. It was my property. Number 3. The locks on the house have been changed. You are no longer a resident here. I trust this provides you with the freedom you desire. I will be out of the country for the next few weeks, and I will not be reachable. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. Jack. I hit the send button, turned off my telephone, and finished packing my motorcycle gear. She wanted to be the star of her own show. I had just given her a brand new stage. A completely empty one. Update number 2. I was somewhere in the middle of Zion National Park, enjoying the deep silence of the desert, when I finally turned my phone back on. It had been 5 days since I left. The digital attack was even more spectacular than I had imagined. It was a beautiful symphony of panic and rage. I had hundreds of notifications. There were missed calls from Jessica, her friends, and her parents. There were voicemails, and I could see from the text transcriptions that they were just strings of screaming. And the emails. There were so many emails. My best friend Mike had been my man on the ground, and he gave me the play-by-play. Jessica's flight landed, and she apparently waited at the arrival's curb for over an hour. She expected me to be there. When I did not show up, she threw a massive tantrum right there on the sidewalk. She finally had to take a ridiculously expensive taxi cab all the way back to my house. According to Mike, who heard it from a neighbor, the driver had to help her with her 3 massive suitcases. She paid him, and he drove off just as she was trying to put her key in the lock. The moment she realized the key did not work was, by all accounts, a sight to see. She was stranded on my front porch with 300 pounds of luggage and no way to get inside. She started calling me, of course. Then she called her friends. Brittany and Chloe, who had been so supportive of her fancy European adventure, were suddenly very busy. Neither one of them had a car big enough for her luggage, and they lived in tiny apartments on the other side of town. Her parents had to drive 2 hours just to come and get her. Mike said the scene on my front lawn was pure chaos. Her father was yelling, her mother was crying, and Jessica was just sitting on one of her suitcases, staring at the front door of the house she was no longer welcome to enter. The social media campaign started that very night. It was a coordinated attack. Jessica, Brittany, and Chloe all posted long, tearful stories. They talked about the dark side of relationships. They claimed I had abandoned Jessica and left her homeless and stranded. They tried their best to make me look like a monster, but I had already warned our mutual friends against their nonsense. Before I left for my trip, I had sent a short, private message to a few key people. I told them that Jessica and I had broken up and that she had said some things that made it clear we wanted very different lives. I asked them to just reserve judgment until they had all the facts. So, when the smear campaign started, it did not land. People were skeptical. The story of what she had said to me at the airport had already started to leak out. Her narrative of being a blameless victim was not holding up. The most glorious part, however, was what I had done with her website. Do you remember how I had taken administrative control? While I was on my trip, I had made one small change. I replaced her entire portfolio of glamorous, filtered photos with a single high-resolution image. It was a picture of the receipt from the junk removal company with the total cost circled in red ink. Underneath it, I added a single line of text. Brand undergoing a strategic realignment. Please check back soon for updates. I heard from Mike that one of her few remaining followers saw it and sent her a screenshot. Her entire online persona, her business, had been reduced to a receipt for throwing her stuff away. She had a complete meltdown and took the entire website offline. The legal threats came a week later. I got a letter from a fancy law firm demanding I restore her access to the house and provide financial support. My lawyer is a man who enjoys this kind of thing a little too much. He sent back a response. It included a copy of the deed to the house, which was in my name only. It included a copy of the car title, which was in my name only. And finally, it included a detailed invoice for her half of all living expenses for the past year. That amount far exceeded any claim she could possibly make against me. The letter ended with a polite suggestion. It said that if she wanted to pursue this in court, I would be more than happy to file a countersuit for the money she owed me. The legal threat stopped immediately. The social media posts stopped. All that was left was a quiet, satisfying silence. Final update. It has been about 4 months since I got back from my motorcycle trip. The silence has been the best part. My house is my own again. It is filled with things I have built, art I actually like, and a profound lack of drama. The story of Jessica's return and the subsequent explosion of her life became a sort of local legend among our friends. She and her parents had to hire a moving truck to go to the storage unit and retrieve her mountain of belongings. I am told it was a very tense and unhappy family outing. She ended up moving back in with her parents. Her influencer career is, for all intents and purposes, over. Her brand was built on a lifestyle she could not sustain on her own. Without me to fund the trips, the clothes, and the fancy dinners, she had no content. Her feed, which was once a constant stream of glamorous updates, is now mostly just old pictures and sad, vague quotes about new beginnings. Brittany and Chloe, her loyal friends, are no longer in the picture. I heard they had a massive falling out. Apparently, they got tired of Jessica complaining and expecting them to support her financially. Their friendship, it seems, was just as transactional as her relationship with me. I did have one final indirect interaction with her. About a month ago, I got a call from a guy who owns a gallery downtown. He was a mutual acquaintance. "Hey, Jack," he said. "I am calling about a weird thing. Jessica was in here yesterday. She was trying to sell me some of the furniture that used to be in your house. She said she was an interior designer now." I just laughed. "And did you buy any of it? Are you kidding me?" he asked. "It was all cheap, mass-produced stuff with no character." I told her it was worthless. She got really upset. She started going on about how you ruined her life and her career. He paused for a moment. "For what it is worth, man, you dodged a bullet." I smiled and hung up the phone. I did not just dodge a bullet. I dodged a heat-seeking missile, and now, I am finally enjoying the peace and quiet. It was a giant, expensive, and poorly decorated bullet. That really sums it all up. She viewed me as an accessory to her life. I was just a wallet to fund her ambitions. She thought my only purpose was to stand in the background, out of the camera frame, so I would not embarrass her. She never understood that I was not just in the background. I was the foundation. And when the foundation walks away, the whole pretty, fake house comes crashing down. I am not angry anymore. I am just free. I am planning another trip for the fall. I might go to Southeast Asia this time. I am building new furniture for my house. I am making pieces that are solid and real and will last a lifetime. I am building a life that does not need to be photographed to be enjoyed. She wanted a life that looked perfect online. I just wanted a life that felt good in reality. It turns out you cannot have both if one is built on top of the other. She made her choice at the airport that day. She chose the image over the person. And in the end, the image was all she was left with. It is just a blurry, fading picture of a life she used to have.